We've been focused on trying to find an architecture that is about San Diego. So the library is the most important attempt at creating an architecture that responds honestly and authentically to who we are. In 1902, the Carnegie Library opened on 8th and E Street. In those days, San Diego really didn't have an identity of any kind. It was sort of a brand new town. So this is a very European idea of what a library should be. But it said to the people in general, civic. It served San Diego well for about 10 to 15 years, and then was clearly too small. The city was just growing too fast. In 1952, the Carnegie Library was torn down and a brand new building built on the same site. So the new library in the 50s, just a flat box. It was, big supermarket style spaces, but it wasn't anything that engaged people. It was a total failure. Within 10 or 15 years, it was really too small. San Diego was growing so quickly. In 1977, there was a study that recommended a new library be built in Horton Plaza. Around 1986, the idea was proposed to take the old Sears site in Hillcrest and make that into the library. 1991, Mayor O'Connor proposed a new library at Lane Field. In 1995, Mayor Susan Golding realized that the site across the street from the train station was available and was city-owned, and that might work for a library site. In 1996, there was an international competition to select the architects for the new main library. Tucker Sadler and ourselves were chosen. In the year 2000, the site on an old police yard in East Village was suggested. So in 2010, construction finally began. September 8th, 2013, the library is finally dedicated. Big things don't happen overnight, and civic buildings certainly don't happen overnight. I believe it took 35 or 40 years to try and get this library built. When we found out that we had been selected, it was just the most marvelous thing. I thought, boy, in 3 or 4 years, we're going to have a brand new library. We were ready to move ahead when we got a phone call that said, stop. It was immensely disappointing. Our San Francisco partners backed out. They just said, San Diego's never going to build this. Essentially, it's pulling the rug right out from under you. Someone decided that the library should be taken off the front burner, put on the rear burner, and a ballpark ought to be put on the front burner. It threw the whole thing up into the air. We really didn't know when and if it would start again. The library was a near-death experience for San Diego. Not once, but repeatedly. And to finally have it in the ground and starting construction, it was absolutely a surreal experience. Never did I imagine it would be a 17-year delay.
So it's extremely important to accomplish something that's been a dream in a community for a long time. Is that at one point in time, people thought it was impossible. And instead, it has happened. And I think it's one of the things that San Diegans will be most proud of, that we brought together public, private, and other government agencies to pull together a project that benefits everyone.
The reason the library got built during a period when the city of San Diego was economically dysfunctional were the citizens. It was a library foundation, were these heroes. I like to say they came on white horses, and the thing went ahead. Went ahead by 1 vote. I don't think I've ever seen more happy people in one spot in my life. Everybody was smiling ear to ear. It was just a magical moment in the history of our city. The library is sort of conceived of as a sandwich where you've got public amenities on the ground level, which I think is the bottom piece of bread. Then in between those cultural pieces of bread, the meat of the library, the working floors. At the top is an equally important piece of bread, cultural bread, and that is all these amenities. And this is our one chance for all San Diegans that have a bay view. Now that's something that doesn't exist in any other library in the United States.
The dome is an icon. It's really intended to be a symbol of this city's commitment to learning and literacy. It's also intended not to look finished. It's really an object in the act of becoming. It's a metaphor for what happens inside a library, which are the human spirits are in the act of becoming something greater and better than they are now.
The idea of the central courtyard and all the doors on the side of the auditorium open so the auditorium space becomes part of the garden court, so you can have huge gatherings. In the auditorium, we have an entire wall that serves not only as an art piece, but as an acoustical sink. Right from the very beginning, an art gallery was in the library program. A wonderful idea. We also added the idea of a sculpture court, a cube of space that will be covered with ivy. The Rare Books Room is a place that is unlike the rest of the library. And so we designed a table made out of a local tree. It's actually a eucalyptus tree that was found, I understand, by the roadside in someplace in La Jolla. Pelican's Perch is this wonderful little balcony that kind of hovers in space and gives you views that you can't have from any other spot. Good civic buildings, and more importantly, the civic domain as a whole, is critical for the cultural health of any city. That doesn't happen by itself. The San Diego Architectural Foundation has been critical in advocating for the importance and the realization of public spaces.
The San Diego Architectural Foundation, our mission is all about inspiring excellence in the built environment. We want to be one of the leading organizations in San Diego that can really engage with the general public, encourage them to become more interested and participate in how our built environment is developed. You look at places where people want to be, they're generally well designed. Look at public spaces, bars, restaurants, coffee houses. If you don't have good design, it's not the next great thing, it's sort of mediocre.
If you think about where people vacation, they don't go to anonymous cities. They go to cities that have strong architectural personalities. That's good business. So if San Diego wants to be a place that's healthy from a business standpoint, it has to create a strong public realm. The weather is not enough.
Great architecture, great design attracts people, and that creates an environment where businesses can thrive. We're there promoting all the things that San Diego does well. We want San Diego to be seen throughout the nation as having a great design culture, a great built environment, and a sustainable one.
Good public architecture is essential if you want a community that takes pride in itself. If we can create civic buildings that are unique, that really speak to our heritage, our culture, our history, then you've created a place. And that's a place that people can identify with, and that's what civilization is all about, I think.